Some men walk into a room and demand attention. Others walk in and are ignored, until it's far too late. That's exactly what happened on a quiet Thursday afternoon at Royal Motors, a luxury car dealership where image mattered more than truth. And the man who walked in unnoticed? Mr. Harold Duncan. Elderly. Quiet. Wearing beige slacks, a soft cardigan, and a worn leather bag across his chest. No gold watch. No fancy shoes. Just slow, steady steps, and a presence you had to really pay attention to feel. But the woman at the entrance desk didn't pay attention. She barely looked up from her computer. And when she did, it was with a raised eyebrow. "Can I help you, sir?" Harold smiled politely. "I'd like to look at one of the Ferraris," he said. She blinked, as if she hadn't heard him right. "The Ferraris are for serious buyers. We have certified pre-owned vehicles in the back." Harold looked toward the bright red coupe on the showroom floor. "I understand. But I'd still like to see it." She sighed and stood, forcing a customer service smile onto her face. "This way," she said, walking briskly without waiting for him to follow. As Harold stepped toward the car, he ran his hand gently over the hood. "You ever driven one?" he asked her. She scoffed. "We test drive with qualified clients only." Her tone wasn't rude, it was worse, dismissive. Cold. Wrapped in professional courtesy with a bitter aftertaste. A few salesmen across the showroom watched from a distance, whispering quietly. One of them laughed. Another said, "He probably wandered in from the bus stop." Harold kept calm. He wasn't new to this. But it still stung. Because no matter how many years you've lived, how much you've built, how much you've earned, you never get used to being seen as less. The saleswoman gestured toward the back of the car. "This model starts at $230,000, she said. "Most people lease it." "I wouldn't be leasing," Harold said softly. "Sure," she replied with a smirk. He turned toward her, still gentle. "Can I sit inside?" She hesitated. "We normally don't open this one. It's a display." Harold nodded. "Understood." He stepped back, hands behind his back, not touching anything. The woman's eyes drifted back to her watch. She'd already dismissed him. But what happened next would change everything. And before I show you what Harold did after walking out of that showroom, I want you to hit subscribe. Because this story, it isn't just about a car. It's about what happens when people assume power has a uniform, and forget that sometimes, it walks in wearing silence. When Harold left the dealership that day, he didn't raise his voice. He didn't leave a bad review. He didn't argue or complain. He simply said, "Thank you for your time," and walked out. But the moment the glass door shut behind him, the saleswoman laughed. Loud enough for others to hear. Poor old man. That was a waste of everyone's time. And if you've ever felt like you were dismissed, looked down on, or ignored just because you didn't fit their idea of important, then you understand what Harold felt in that moment. But here's what you may not know. That feeling doesn't have to define you. And that's why I need to share this with you. It's called the 369 Manifestation Code. It's a 3-digit frequency alignment method inspired by Nikola Tesla's energy principle, and it's helping people reshape their mindset, presence, and even wealth, not by shouting for attention, but by attracting what they deserve. Click the first pinned comment below to access it now. Because dignity isn't loud, it's aligned. 2 days passed. The dealership went on like nothing had happened. Until a silver Maybach with diplomatic plates pulled up out front. And out of it stepped a driver. Followed by someone no one expected. Mr. Harold Duncan. And this time, he wasn't just browsing. The glass doors slid open, and silence fell over the dealership. The staff who had laughed days before now stood frozen. Because the man who just walked in wasn't walking. He was being escorted. Not by a nurse. Not by a relative. But by a professional driver, dressed in black, holding open the door to a silver Maybach, a car so rare it didn't even have a price tag on the lot. The man who stepped out? Mr. Harold Duncan. Same calm posture. Same quiet dignity. But this time, his presence carried weight. He didn't need to say a word, and yet, everyone heard him. The receptionist stammered, "Hello sir, how can I help you?" Harold smiled. "I'm here to finalize a purchase." A man in a suit rushed forward, the dealership manager. Of course. Right this way, Mr. Duncan. But I believe your staff already met me." He looked around the room slowly, letting the weight of that moment settle. And then, from his leather bag, he pulled out a folder. Inside, a cashier's check, a printed wire transfer receipt, and a letter, addressed to the dealership owner. The manager read the documents, his face shifting from fake excitement to pale disbelief. "Is this real?" "Yes," Harold answered. "I just purchased 6 vehicles. One for myself. The others? For donation to a youth foundation I support." He looked toward the same Ferrari he'd admired days ago. "I'll take that one personally. But I expect a different level of service this time." Across the room, the saleswoman who had dismissed him stood still, lips pressed tight. Harold glanced at her, then turned back to the manager. "I assume she won't be handling the paperwork." The manager nodded stiffly. "Absolutely not, sir." Harold paused. Then spoke calmly. "You see, I didn't come back to prove a point. I came back because I believe in second chances. But that doesn't mean I forget the first impression." The paperwork began. The team scrambled. A senior rep handled the transaction personally. And within the hour, Harold Duncan drove off in his brand new Ferrari, escorted by 2 of the very staff who'd ignored him before. Later that week, the dealership shared a photo on their social media. Harold, standing beside the Youth Foundation's logo, smiling in front of the cars he'd just donated. The caption read, "Kindness, class, and quiet strength. Mr. Duncan reminded us that success doesn't always shout. Sometimes, it just returns, and leaves a legacy. Let me leave you with this. You don't owe anyone a performance to prove your worth. You don't need to explain your value. You don't have to look the part to change lives, or command respect. Because sometimes, the most powerful person in the room is the one who listens. And then acts when it matters most. And if you're ready to step into that version of yourself, calm, grounded, and magnetic, click the link in the first pinned comment. The 369 Manifestation Code is helping people unlock alignment, wealth, clarity, and quiet authority, by tuning into a powerful frequency few ever tap into. It's not about proving yourself. It's about owning your space. If this story moved you, leave a like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Have you ever been judged before they knew your story? Let's make sure people like Harold aren't invisible anymore. Not because they yelled, but because their presence speaks louder than words ever could.